Hey, everybody, and we're live, but as you can see, I'm by myself. I think both Angela and Annette went potty, so want to get it going, but hello, what's going on? How are you? Thank you for tuning in both to the Thrifty Business Show and to the after show. I'm excited about this one because although I've done bras and ladies' PJs, it has all been mostly modern stuff. And I've never looked at slips, at corsets, all that kind of stuff. So I am excited. I hope you guys are excited too, because that is something fun. Hi, Angela.
Hello.
You changed for.
More. It's cold here.
Oh my God. I've never had my co host change in the middle of two shows. That's funny. That is funny.
Yeah. I sit over, this is like, I'm sitting in the old meat department. So there's like a drain hole under my desk and I could feel cold air right at my feet from the out of doors. So now, hi,
and we're live already in case you just so you don't pick your nose or something. We're live.
Okay. Oh, well, okay. That was nice.
Shoot, I didn't have to pee for one. So I was like, I'll just go live and start talking to everybody.
That's awesome.
Oh dear.
All right, so I need to go into the secret beach then, right? To see that chat. Do I need to see the chat? I don't know.
Well, here, I'll give you the link right here. So hold on a sec. But yeah, you can see the chat. So just give us.
Well, I'm looking at the chat on my phone.
So there's the link for the chat, Angela.
Thank you.
Let me get the second presentation going, everybody. So give us one quick second here. How was everybody tonight? Everybody's going good.
Peachy.
Looking forward to helping out everybody in the thrifting board that is affected by this shutdown. And look, I fully realize, because we talked about this, I fully realize it reaches beyond the actual government employees and contractors, like people who have businesses near where there's government offices, they're hurting. I would love to help everybody. We're going to help as many people as we can. And even if the government opens tomorrow, we're going to do this for a while, because even if it opens tomorrow, people are still hurting. So we're going to do this for a while. And I mean, as long as we have members of the thrifting board, we'll try and get as many of them up and as possible to buy something from them. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a big thing. So even if you're a little bit on the short side, if you can buy a $5 or a $10 item, if 100 of us do that for every person, that will help put food on the table for the people who are affected by this. And like I said, it will not be a political discussion, because we'll end up just punching each other and hating each other. But this is a discussion of our fellow thrifters, our fellow surfers, our fellow beachcombers are affected by this. So let's help out when we can.
Yep.
And I just talked to Erica. I said, well, you got your second sale because I found something I bought. She goes, oh, I've had that listed forever. And it's a little wreath made out of shells, but it's the kind of thing where it's not real big, but I can set a tiki in the middle of it. And then it's got this whole display thing going on. So I loved it. So I was like, oh, cool. I need that. And it wasn't expensive, but you know, it's going to help out in the long run for them. So, all right, let me get the new presentation up. And I am very bummed though that I can't just push play.
That's weird.
It keeps going to black, and I don't know why. Because it's supposed to work if I do share entire screen, and then I push play. Oh, it worked this time. Are you shitting me? Oh, well. Hey, at least it worked for the Secret Beach.
Let me click on.
Unbelievable. Wouldn't work the whole 30 business, and it works for Secret Beach.
How weird.
Yeah, all are special. So, Annette, I blew it. Everyone wanted to know your store name, and we'd already stopped the show. So tell the Secret Beachcombers what your store name is. So
okay, my store name is Elmwood Cottage Collectibles. And my username is Elmwood Cottage with no space or anything, just Elmwood Cottage. Sometimes it's easier to find via the user name versus the store, but Elmwood Cottage Collectibles.
Awesome.
Is it.
All right, so let me introduce those of you, because some of you might be new to the Secret Beach. This might be your first tide pool. So from time to time, when we have a guest on that just has so much content, we give, we still give a good content out to the regular Thrifty Business Show, but then the guest is gracious enough to stay on and give some bonus content for the beachcombers, and that's the tide pool. So part of the Secret Beach is we have Typhoons, which is our guests, Surf Reports, which is me, tide pools, how-to videos. I filmed a new how-to video. I'll be getting that up this weekend. and all kinds of good stuff coming up. And if you didn't see my live earlier, we have the dates for the Secret Beach Cruise #2. It'll be in the fall, and we'll have that up probably within a week or so. We're putting the finishing touches on what we need to get, and then give all you guys information. So if you were on the first one, I know some of you have been aching to go on a second one. If you missed the first one, we're going on a week cruise this time, so we have a little bit more time to relax and still do classes and stuff on the boat, and it'll be a lot of fun. We had the best time on the boat, and this is a better boat and a week cruise. So we're going to have a shit ton of fun. So
boat.
And I'll pop Annette's store into the chat because I see people asking how to spell it. No worries. I'll get Annette going, and then I'll pop the link in the chat. All right, Annette, you are up and running. Thank you for doing both these things, by the way.
Oh, no problem. More than happy to. Okay, you know, Jason always teaches us about looking for the bras, you know, the giant bras. But I'm here to tell you, there's more on those racks besides giant bras.
Tell me more.
This is just if you were in the other presentation, you saw a reference to this. So I just wanted to emphasize what a great resource this website is. But I'm going to show you then a few more of the labels. If you want to go to the next slide, then so you can see these are some of the most popular ones that you should almost always buy. And Missy Lane. Now, it does not have to be these exact labels because through the years, the label style and stuff will change. And you'll see that if you're into the vintage label resource from the website I showed before. But these brands you will are really, really desirable. And that's Missy Lane. And of course, the Union label will always, help you date your garment. And there's actually a whole page on Union labels on that website where you can date it based on the style of the Union label. Kaiser is a great brand, and this is Elsa Schiaparelli's her label. That particular color, that hot pink, is kind of a trademark of hers.
Like the poodle.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that great? And Lucy Ann is, I think I sold one Lucy Ann many years ago, but it's one of the higher end, usually nightgowns, which are my favorites. And a few more labels here. Fit Right is kind of a low end, but I kind of like their stuff. They have nice detail. And Van Ralt is probably one of my all-time favorites, along with Vanity Fair. So those are definite good ones. But any item that has good eye appeal is always going to be a must-buy.
So Ginny says, what about vintage Fredericks of Hollywood?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. You know, here's what I tell you, and I've got some sourcing tips. I think they're at the end. But if it's got great detail, if it's in good condition, great condition, and it's got eye appeal, I don't care what brand it is. And again, the collectors don't really care. Now, there are those who do care what brand it is, but if it's got eye appeal, you want to think in terms of keywords, and I've got some of those to share with you as well. But no, not a thing wrong with that. Yeah. Okay. Barbizon is another great brand, has been in the business. They're still making stuff today. As a matter of fact, Aristocrat, not Aristocat, or not Aristocat, Aristocrat. I'm thinking Disney. Okay, not Aristocat and not an Aristocrat.
The old Disney lingerie.
Exactly. Look, he wears it. Meow. Anyway, that's a great brand too. They have beautiful stuff, and Mary Barron is another one. Okay, and then the next slide, you'll be able to see the differences in a vintage label versus a newer label. And because a lot of people say, well, how do you know if it's vintage? To me, it's if it's got a woven label, and that's what I refer to the one on the top as, a woven label. And of course, almost everything I've talked about tonight, they're all made in USA, with the exception of maybe the Elsa Schiaparelli. That might have been Paris, but they're all going to be made in USA. But you still want to look at that, because even if you're buying a newer item, you still want to look for that made in the USA. But you can see the newer label below. It's printed on kind of a, not paper, but it's, you know, the fabric. You all have dealt with labels, so that's kind of how you can tell the difference.
Nice and scratchy in your undergarments.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And then, of course, on the other side of your labels, where you're going to have information usually about the content of the fabric, and again, the size. And that size 36 refers to the bust. And then there's style information there too, which I don't usually mess around with. I don't care what style it is. I don't care unless it becomes obvious. I don't really deal with that. But it's all good information now, stuff to put, you know, keywords to use. Okay, what do we got next? Oh, sourcing. I've got my sourcing tips right here. All right. One of the most difficult thing with this stuff is trying to find the labels in these things. So what you'll see me in a thrift store where the slip or the nightgown is hanging on the rack, and I'm doing one of these. I'm holding it up from the bottom. First of all, you look at the neck and you see if it's there. If you're lucky, it is. But a lot of times I'm doing like an upskirt thing where I'm looking, holding up the bottom of the skirt and looking up. It's a little strange. You'll really get looks, Jason, you start doing that.
Oh, heck yeah.
I mean, it's weird, but very often that is where you will find those labels, is in the side seam, sometimes towards the top on the underarm, sometimes it's clear at the bottom, sometimes it's on the shoulder. There have been times where I literally will take an item and turn it inside out to try to find the label on the sucker. And, you know, there have been things I've bought that I didn't think had a label on it till I got it home and really was able to examine it well. And again, look for your vintage woven labels. Color is always good. A plain white slip is never going to sell quite as well as something that's got color. Go for eye appeal. It doesn't matter what the age of it is. If it's attractive to you, it will be to others. Now, one of the things you want to do is, let me see if I can grab one real quick here, is if an item has elastic like this is a pair of petty pants.
Whoa.
Yeah, they're not really panties, and it's not really a slip. They've got legs in them, and they're called petty pants.
On this side you have sexy, on this side you have petty pants.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, yes. But anyway, panties or half slips or something like this where it's got elastic, you want to do the elastic test. And if it's crunchy, forget it. Leave it behind, because that means that the elastic is dried out, and it's, you know, unless you really want to go to the, you know, extent of opening this up and putting new elastic in, forget it. You know, you don't want that. Always buy silk, regardless of the condition. And I've got an example of that later on, where I'll show you an item that I bought that was silk, and it was roached, but I still got decent money out of it. Sheer is everything with this stuff, especially with the panties. As I discussed in the last presentation, size is not a deal breaker. As you all know, if you've dealt with vintage clothing, vintage sizes run small anyway. So the bigger is helpful, but it's not a deal breaker. Avoid buying plain white, especially in slips.
Annette,
yeah, sure.
Oh, sorry. Do you ever buy any of the ones made out of cotton material?
Sure. Absolutely.
Like some of the maybe more modern vintage, like in the 60s, 70s, where they were more like the baby dolls.
Oh, definitely.
You know?
And it's all about condition. Sometimes the cotton ones can look more a little rattier. You know, the colors, the patterns would fade on it. But honestly, I bought a pair once. It was a child's pajamas, and they had an adorable little like French design with little poodles and little Eiffel Towers.
How cool is that?
And they were really faded, but I got, you know, probably $25 for them. So, you know, just use your gut feeling and your experience with selling other things. And it's all about the appeal of it. And if you're into kitschy stuff, like I know Angela is, and I know I am,
for sure,
you just, you know, I will just gravitate towards that kind of thing.
Anything with like the Swiss dots on it, if it's yellow, Like
Oh
what I was
yeah.
wearing earlier. If it's loud and it screams from across the thrift
Yes,
store, I'm going to take
I
it.
have bought flannel before, flannel nightgown. I mean, I don't buy just, I like the frilly stuff, but honestly, as long as when I'm looking on the rack at nightgowns and robes and slips and so forth, if I see like recently bought and sold a really nice, I think it was new with tags, Missy Lane long flannel nightgown, and it sold really well. I think I got $40 for it. So, you know,
That's pretty sweet.
yeah.
For easy ships, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're buying a wrap robe, and if you know what I mean by a wrap robe, it's what most people think of as a robe that doesn't have a zipper. It wraps, generally has one tie on the inside, and then there's another tie that goes around. Make sure that the tie is included. I can't tell you how many times I get all excited over a robe I have found and think, oh, this is just the best. And I finally have smartened up a little bit and now know to look for it. But got it home, I was like, oh, shoot, I don't have the tie to it. So it's kind of useless without that tie, especially if it's something with a pattern or it's a very specific, 'cause usually that tie matches the fabric. So make sure that's included. And as I mentioned in the last presentation, if you have damaged or plain items, lot them together and sell them as a lot.
And you only sell on eBay, right? So this is all.
Actually, I have sold on Etsy as well. In
Okay.
fact, that's where I was putting all of my vintage, like this kind of thing. Like this, I think sold on Etsy.
Okay.
But now I've sold so much stuff and I just haven't had time in the last 2 years really to replenish my Etsy store. So it's kind of on the back burner. I've only got about 4 things in there right now that haven't sold. And they were cross listed as well. I don't have that much inventory. It was easy enough. And since I kept it to one category, it was easy for me to deal with that. And again, this is the Van Ralt I sold before. It's all about the details. So, and I know that the one thing I wanted to mention with this has to do with the slips. There is on the shoulders, there are what they call slides that allow the straps to adjust. And on the older slips, those will be metal, usually painted metal. And the newer ones will be plastic.
Yeah,
now, one of
and the newer ones break.
Yeah, well, and that's one thing I will do. Like if I have some plain slips, I will save the slides off of there. Because the other tip I have for you is that if you're handy with a needle and thread, it's very, very helpful when it comes to this stuff. I have done a lot of repair on these, where sometimes it just needs, the strap just needs a little bit of reinforcement. But if I can save an item or make sure that it's going to, last and be a good item for the customer, I'll definitely take a little bit of time while I'm sitting and watching TV and take a needle and thread and do a little mending or just reinforcement or something. So that's very, very, very helpful. And the straps themselves are satin ribbon, and I often will use that in my description of, adjustable satin ribbon straps.
That's pretty. So. It even sounds pretty.
So
yeah, it does.
There's a few questions in the chat.
Sure, go for it.
Linda wants to know, is Victoria's Secret too new to be worth picking up?
No, and actually I've got a couple slides on that later on. But no, new. I buy anything that has good eye appeal. I'll talk a little bit about the specific Victoria's Secret that I do buy towards the end of the presentation. But, again, if it looks good and if the price is good, buy it. So
Kara's got a great question. And she said, since we're amongst friends, since we're in our smaller group, do you add CD, TV, or sissy to any of your listings, and do you make them private also?
That is a great tip. No, I don't add any of those other terms, but I do make these private as much as possible when I remember to do so.
Yeah.
There are the panty ones especially, I make those private. But yeah, I definitely, and I don't know if it means anything. I don't care who these go to. I don't care what they do. Nope. I don't care. But it seems that probably about 80% of my buyers, the addresses, they go to men. So
and for those who don't know, because I'm guessing out of the 75 who are watching live, you're like, what's all that mean? So CD is cross-dressing, TV is transvestite, and sissy, I would say is more of a fetish thing.
Yeah.
Because cross-dressing and transvestite is not a fetish thing, but sissy is, I think.
Yeah.
And if I'm wrong, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure I said it all right.
I think you got that right. I think for the most part, if people are buying for those kind of purposes, you know, they just know what they're buying. They don't need those kind of keywords to get them there. So, but yeah, private is a great idea, and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't affect anything, and you know, I think it shows a respect for your buyer, because that's what I always try to do, is respect my customers.
Robin says, does private matter even more since you can't see the buyer's feedback?
I don't know. Does it?
I don't know.
Yeah, don't know. I
think possibly it could, just because if I'm just saying, if there were a buyer who was buying it because they think it's a little on the naughty side, that maybe buying it from a private listing just as one more level of, ooh, I'm getting away with something naughty. You know, I'm doing this. It's a hush hush.
I wonder if it appears in their solds or in their listing as if it's hidden in any way, you know, so like if there was a partner or someone else in the house, they wouldn't see that. I don't know. I don't think I've ever bought anything under private, so I don't know. But it's easy enough.
Maybe I'll buy something from your store. We could do a test.
Okay.
Now, Stephanie says private is still an option when listing, so it must matter. And the only thing to that is there are some legacy things in eBay that really don't matter anymore.
It doesn't necessarily.
They just point them out because it really doesn't matter either way. So I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but just as food for thought, some things you're like, that doesn't matter anymore. Why do I even care?
Yeah.
But all right. Let's cruise on here.
Okay. This is a Vanity Fair, again, my bread and butter. But again, this has got some great details on it. This particular one, even though it's white, because of the detail, it sold for $80. And the one thing I want to point out to you is the very bottom. If you want to go to the next slide, Jason, these are called accordion plates. There's a close-up of it. And it's a fairly distinctive, you know, detail, and it's very, very desirable. A lot of the fancy Van Ralt slips will have accordion pleat details on them, and it's something that you definitely want to put in your description, and if it fits, to put it in the title as well. So, all right, this is an example of always buying silk. The black one, this is actually from quite a while ago. This is from the 1940s, and it's a full slip, and it's silk. So that's one of the things when you're going through the racks, you know, you kind of get to know what silk, especially in the lingerie, what it feels like. And I'll just take my hand, and even if it's plain stuff, and just kind of, you know, run across to see if I can feel for silk. And you'll just always want to buy that. The one that was in nice condition sold for $90. Fisher Heavenly Silk is the brand on this one. And I came across this other slip, the beige one, again, Fisher Heavenly Silk, and I got all excited. That thing had so many holes in it and tears in it. It was totally roached, but I sold it for $30. So yeah, you know,
I got a couple. I had 2 more questions from the chat.
Sure.
Paul wants to know if you've done a repair or had a repair made to a garment. Do you mention that in your listing?
Only if it was something really, really drastic that truly altered it. If it's just reinforcing or reattaching a strap, no, I don't mention that. If it's something where it shows, or if it, you know, really makes a difference, no, yeah, unless it's an extensive repair, I don't mention it.
Okay. And also, Linda Pacheco wants to know, are we supposed to wash used panties before selling them on eBay? In parentheses, that's a question I never thought I'd ask.
Yeah. You know, I think you're probably supposed to, but you know, the ones that I've sold, frankly, if it was something that looked like it needed to be washed, I wouldn't buy it to begin with.
Good
you know
point.
What I mean?
Good point. And
yeah, if I gotta go there, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, and to go back to along with the about making the repairs, if you're not handy with the needle and thread, and I'm probably not, you know, I might be, but who knows if I could sit still that long. But what I found is that a seamstress, they're not extremely expensive. And when you find an old school seamstress who, you know, like I met someone in our store, and she learned it from her mother, who learned it from her mother. She wants to see these vintage pieces saved as much as anybody. And, you know, so, you know, I just wait till I have a pile, and I took it all to her, and I know she's not going to she's not going to rake me over the coals for money because, you know, part of it, she was like, you know, these are all like 2-minute repairs. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And I'm not qualified. Yeah. And I'm not qualified to potentially damage a vintage piece.
If you're getting $60 to $100 for it, it's worth it.
Oh yeah. And in the pilot, if I get that much for every piece that I took to her, oh my gosh, it's, you know, it's worth, even if I pay her $50, it's fine. Yeah. You know, but you know, don't, if you're not qualified, don't just, you know, just for a minute,
stabbing at it. Yeah.
From the person who is, you know, accidentally washed and ruined too many pieces.
So look, we finally got a sexy color now. We've seen a lot
Isn't
of
this great?
neutral type colors. Now look at this red. Boom.
This is why I love Van Ralt. This is the kind of stuff that that this brand does. I mean, that the lace on the bodice there, and again, if you can see, it's got at the bottom, there's a layer, there's a lace, and then there's accordion pleats, and then there's lace in the bottom of that.
Got it all.
And it's just, you know, it does. It's got, and it was in perfect condition. Boy, I did. Yeah, I just love that. I could look at that. It's just gorgeous. Okay, now here's another half slip. Now, what I wanted to show this for, it's got the accordion pleats, but one of the things that this has is what's called a pillow tab. And this is, again, a term that you'll want to use in your description if you come across one of these. If you want to go to the next slide. A pillow tab is a little piece of satin that is sewn. Let me see, where's my petty pants go here? Now, these don't have it, but it would be where the seam, there's always a seam. And what they would do is attach that extra little piece of satin there for comfort, because, you know, on your delicate skin, that's the satin. But although I see on the seam across from this slip, this is a really cool half slip from Vanity Fair. Yeah, I'm not really, you know, other than that, I'm not sure why they do that, but it's called a pillow tab. Vanity Fair first started using it. Now there are other brands, or not now, but eventually some other brands started using it as well. But it's a sign of quality. And it's something that, you know, if you mention it, you know, the buyer knows that this is a little bit nicer piece. So, pillow tabs.
I guess none of my panties have ever been that fancy, because I have never seen that on anything I've ever worn.
Mostly in slips, in half slips, I'll find it. Okay. And these are the panties that I showed before. Again, yeah, and again, just want to emphasize, sheer, photograph these suckers. If you want to go to the next one, again, we're talking about the mushroom gusset. What I did is I hung them up. Actually, I've got a window right behind me, and I've got a blind that's like a fabric type blind, and I attached it up to the top with the light shining through to get that effect. And again, I just learned that by looking at other people who had great success on selling panties for very, very high price. And it seemed to do the trick, considering what I got. So, and again, I want you to also consider doing the auction format. I've got some things recently that I've set aside, and I want to make sure I just don't do auctions often enough anymore now, and I forget about it. But I've been able to organize myself in such a way so that I've got some I want to try and see if I can get even better prices for some things. So
I'm going to answer a question, and you tell me if I answer correctly.
Okay, sure.
2 people said, "Why don't you buy white slips?" Now I'm going to guess this is the most common tiki mug of all time. It's called the Leilani. I would never tell you to buy it. Now, there's a couple versions that are hard to find that I would say, yeah, but for the most part, you would never buy this mug. I'm going to guess the white slip is the Leilani of lingerie.
Absolutely.
Super common, 10 bazillion of them.
Yeah.
No one needs it.
It has to do with supply and demand. Look how you reacted to that red slip. Like, woo, now we're talking. Yeah. I mean, that gets attention. Man, if you're wearing that under your dress when you go to work, you got a certain mindset. It all has to do with eye appeal again. Eye appeal and quantity. You know, for the most part, we wear white slips under our dresses, or we did anyway, because it was the most discreet. So they're plentiful.
So speaking of white slips, did you ever hear the phrase "it's snowing down south"?
Yes, that's when your slip
growing
is
up.
showing.
Yes, that means your
Yes.
slip is showing,
Your
and
slip is longer than
you're
your
supposed to be
than the
acting
hem of
like a
your dress.
lady, Angela.
Okay, this is again just to reiterate, look for the built-in garters in the panties. So we can move along.
Get out of here. Susan in the chat says, I was just going to ask you about a group of Leilani's. Of all the things for me to compare it to. Not to really get off track, but this is the kind of thing, though, if you found a large group for very cheap, people will buy common ones in large groups. They're not worth your time one at a time. So Susan, send me the link later or pictures or whatever you got, and I'll definitely help you with it. All right, back to panties.
It's the same concept of why and how I lot together common, like a bunch of white slips or more commons. It's the same concept. Jason, you're the only one I know who could bring tiki into a presentation on lingerie.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now I actually really like this particular item or this category. They're called bed jackets. And ladies would wear these, like you'd see them in old soap operas or in old movies where the old lady's sitting in bed and maybe she's, having breakfast in bed. And it's a short jacket or short little jacket or cover it's designed to be worn while you're sitting in bed looking demure and nibbling on your scones and tea and so forth. This particular one is by Mary Barron, and I just think it's delightful. They don't sell for a lot of money, but sometimes I don't care because it's pretty and
it's pretty and we have to save it.
Absolutely. That's it. I think, you know what, Angela, I never really realized, but I think that is a lot of it. And like this one, I mean, this is gorgeous.
This is the Liberace line.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
This blue satin and the 3 buttons at the top, those are giant rhinestones. And with the lace inserts there. So, bed jackets, don't overlook those, or at least you know what they are if you see them on the rack. It's like, what is this? Is this like a top? Are there supposed to be bottoms to it or something? But no, it's a bed jacket. So, all right, I don't do a lot with vintage bras, and it's only because I haven't come across a lot. These are the kind of thing that I don't know that you're going to find too much at a thrift store. I suppose you could. Estate sales, maybe, but yeah, I would love to find more like some really sexy vintage bras, but I just haven't come across them. This is considered a long line. As you can see, it goes further down the torso. The whole idea is holding all that stuff in. Thank goodness we're beyond those days. And a lot of these were cotton, and if they were worn a lot, the fabric didn't hold up. So. Another long line bra. This one is called the Bow Bra by Bali. And the only thing I don't know about this, see the little tabs? They almost look like garter tabs, but it's like way too high for garters. If anybody has any idea what the heck that would be, if it's to attach like a lower level of foundation garment, I have no idea what those are for. But I don't really care. It's sold for $60. So...
Good point.
I didn't mention, I didn't say, I don't know what these things are. I didn't call them anything. It's just kind of like, well, there they are. So, and of course, garter belts, just plain garter belts. This one particular one, the brand was Bali. And those, it's how you hold up your stockings when you don't want to wear a girdle. And of course, I hope we all know the difference between stockings and pantyhose and thigh highs. Pantyhose, of course, are the, all-in-one things that, can hold you in. Thigh highs will go up, just exactly what they say. They go up to like the middle of your thighs, but there's usually like a elastic or the, kind of spandexy type material that holds them up. Stockings are just pure nylon without a lot of stretchy stuff to them. And you use these garters to hold them up. So there, got your education and legwear. Okay. Now, this is to let you know that if there are no tags in your item, but the condition is nice, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter as long as you think in terms of keywords. So look at all the details. And whenever I shop, doesn't matter what it is, if it's lingerie or electronics or whatever, I always think in terms of keywords, especially if there isn't, a lot of identifying information. This had no label in it. I have no idea who made this, but it was in lovely condition, and I sold it for $60. So,
How did you describe those sleeves?
bell sleeves.
Bell sleeves with
Yeah, edged in lace. Yeah.
edged lace. Okay.
Yeah. And the empire waist is where the seam there, where the tie is right
Yep.
under the
Up
bust.
under.
That's
Yep.
empire. Yeah. Or empire. Empire sounds
Empire's
nice.
so
I know
fancy.
empire makes you
So
sound
fancy.
In my flannel, let's talk fancy,
Okay.
fancy fringe.
No, I love this. This was from probably 7 years ago, but I wanted to include it because I came across this nightgown at Salvation Army. I got it home. It had the label in it was Form Fit Rogers, which, you know, if you've seen from vintage lingerie ads or whatever, again, that's another one of those brands out there. And as I started doing research on it, I found a reference to it on the site for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And they have this piece in their collection, this exact nightgown in their collection that Form Fit Rogers donated as an example of their design from the 70s. And this thing is gorgeous. I don't have a picture of the back here, but it's got a real, it's got a super low back, and the top part that you see with the lace applique, that's called an applique, where those pieces of lace design are strategically placed to cover up the naughty bits. But the sheer fabric in between is called illusion. So that's an illusion bodice.
Ooh, okay.
And so that's another, because it gives you the illusion that there's nothing there. So again, those are keywords. So anyway, I purchased this for $1 and it sold for $130. So, you know,
awesome.
that was like a good 7-8 years ago. So
Annette, in this photo on the Form Fit, what is
Yeah.
underneath that's helping it to fan out for your photograph?
Pins. This was my old photo setup.
There's
where
no
I used
magic.
They're pins. I used a shower curtain over closet doors is what I used.
It didn't scare you to put a pin through the vintage
A
the
little
nylon?
bit, but you know, it's I don't sweat these things. You know, it was just one, you know, through one. I went inside and just put it and stuck it enough so that it would hold it out. Okay, and this again, I talked about the Elsa Schiaparelli before, so there's really, I don't have anything else. I just wanted to show it again.
I like hearing you say Schiaparelli.
Elsa Schiaparelli. Hey, listen, anything Elsa Schiaparelli, I sold a sewing pattern once that was an Elsa Schiaparelli from the 30s, I think, and it sold for $600. So I love Elsa. I love Elsa. So, okay, what do we have next?
So quick question.
Sure.
Where to go? Shit, wrong chat. What is she using to show the full skirt?
Using to show the full skirt.
I think.
Is that what I asked with how is
that what you asked?
That might
be,
yeah.
She's pinning it.
Yeah.
As usual, in case you don't know, when I'm hosting a show, I have 72 things going on. And so I saw the question, which wasn't too specific. And I'm like, I think we answered that, but I'll ask anyway. Yeah, I'm having a conversation with 3 people right now, and listening and hosting. And hey, Rhonda Nan Flowers.
Yeah, this is. I just wanted to give you another example of a bridal peignoir. It was just, you know, it's just delightful bunch of froth there. I love it. So, yeah, that was a fun one. Okay, Olga, this is a good example of a sweep, although I don't really show the sweep very well. Now, sweep is a very important term when it comes to nightgowns like this. Sweep has to do with the bottom and how far out it will go. And I will measure that too. Like a lot of times, I mean, sometimes I'll have one that have like a 200-inch sweep. And so I have to take it and I fold it in half, and then I'll like quarter it, and then I'll measure it, and then have to do math, which is always a challenge. I know. It's always a challenge for me. But full sweep, or referring to the sweep, or including a sweep measurement in your description is key. And it's one of those things that just tells your buyers that you know a little bit more what you're doing. This is just such a gorgeous nightgown with those vertical lace inserts like that too.
Oh yeah, I think this one's sexy, even though it's just baby.
I just love that. Yeah. Okay. Now we showed in the last presentation, we talked about corsets, girdles, bustiers, and corselettes, but the difference, in case you want to use the terms correctly, corsets are like those torture devices that I showed, where they have lots of that boning, a lot of that structure, a lot of, there's lacing, there's boning, there's straps and all kinds of things. Its purpose is to hold a person in, like waist trainers, which are popular with a certain segment of the population. That's essentially what they use, are corsets. A corselet is a softer version of that. It will have more spandex. It won't rely so much on boning. But again, it's a full, it's a full foundation garment. Bustiers are tight and they're sleeveless, although some do have shoulder straps. They're usually pretty fancy as well. And they'll always have the hook and eyes in the back, like anywhere from 8 to 12 of those hook and eyes in the back to hold
Like
everything
Madonna.
together. Yeah, exactly.
80s Madonna.
Yep, definitely. And the boning in them isn't very heavy either. Girdles are what, my grandma always wore. She died at the age of 91, 20 years ago, and she never went a day without putting on her girdle and stockings. There's no boning. They're a tight fabric. Some of the most valuable girdles are the rubber ones. I don't know if you remember, if your moms or if your grandmothers ever wore those, but I remember my mom having some of those things. They're just pure rubber.
Oh God, I can't even imagine.
I know.
I can't.
I know. But those sell really, really well. If you find them, you pick them up. Ugh. Oh well.
Absolutely.
So those are the differences, is you can use your terminology correctly there. Okay. And this is again examples of, this is a bustier, because again it's got the lighter boning and it does have and it's fancy, and it has the hook and eye closures. This has a 12 hook and eye closure in the back. And then I think the next one again, I think for some reason, I think I included all of these again. The Love Lights, again, very fancy. And it's sold for $80. You got to love that. Ugh.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this is a corselet, the kind of thing that, again, the marvelous Mrs. Maisel wears underneath most of her stuff, I believe. It's pretty heavy duty. I mean, you feel like you're like a tank underneath that stuff.
You feel like a sausage, wouldn't you?
This one has a side zipper on it. This one is a little bit older, but it's a satin, and it's again, it's the open bottom that we talked about before. Built in, it's a combination bra and girdle, and I'm sure I don't have it mentioned there, but it probably had like garter tabs in there, for sure in there too. So lovely piece. And this is an example of,
wow.
Gossard is another brand. And if you know your brand, so you spot something like this, grab it. This is a new in the box girdle. It's just a white open bottom girdle that was in there, but it sold for $52. So I have a tendency to gravitate towards old, I can spot a vintage box across the room. Yep. And I will always go check it out. So be sure to do that as well. Another open bottom girdle with garters. I actually have another lark that somebody just bought yesterday, as a matter of fact. So, and this again, okay, we're just repeating the Rango lace-up torture here, $74. Yeah, and this one
torture.
And this one hasn't.
You ladies love it.
Yeah, exactly. This one's listed for $90. I'm hoping. I don't know. I may have to run a sale or drop the price a little bit on this.
Do you ever, Annette? Do you ever use words like reenactment or cosplay or anything like that in your listings, especially for like this
no
true form one?
No,
because that one does not say fashion to me. That one says like it's either fetishist or it's for reenactment,
or dominatrix or something.
Exactly. I was trying to be delicate about it.
But delicate, delicate dominatrix though, because of the pink that it is. I don't know if there's a category for that. Yeah, that's something I have to think about though. Yeah, that's a possibility.
Now, do you only pick up adult stuff? Do you ever pick up kids like vintage underwear?
I'm like Jason. I don't go near the kids department.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Yeah. It's just overwhelming for me, for one thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why I started gravitating towards even this kind of stuff. When I go into a thrift store, all the women's clothes just kind of, it overwhelms me. There's so much of it. And so just dealing with a small section, I could go through it quicker. So I think that's one of the reasons why I went this direction. Now, this is an example, and it addresses a question we had before about Victoria's Secret and newer items. I will always buy something new. Like this was just a really, really lovely little chemise, and which is the name for that kind of just sort of short, flirty nylon or polyester type item. And it had this gorgeous sheen to it. It was silvery. And it was almost looked like hand painted flowers on there. You know, it didn't sell for huge, huge money, but hey, when I can turn $1 into $28, why not? So again, it's eye appeal. And then when it comes to Victoria's Secret, I will be more likely to go with what they call the gold label. And this is from the 80s, and it's their older stuff. And a lot of those pieces are considered to be fairly iconic and, you know, and very good design and good quality materials and so forth, even though, you know, this was still made in China. So I will pick up a gold label, but, you know, if it's newer than that, again, if it's lovely and if it's a good price and the condition is perfect, go for it. And here's another example of a new item. This was a blush pink robe, the brand Linea Donatella, and it was new with tags. And it was just gorgeous. And again, you know, the lace detail that you see on the top there, those are called appliques. And that's another term that you would use when applicable. So I think we've got
applicable. I like
yeah.
it.
Oh, how about that? This, and you know, I'd be happy to share these also in the do we have a place? We have a place in the secret.
Yeah, we run the files. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd be happy to add the whole presentation, but especially this particular slide I think is helpful. What I did is I kind of went through and to give you some hints on how to do the title, the label name, unless it's really a, you know, something that's crappy. But if you've got Van Ralt, you've got Vanity Fair, and some of the other ones I've mentioned. Definitely use that. So I usually do the label name, the item name, the size, the color, vintage. 90% of the time I will also include the decade. When I don't, it's because maybe I had other keywords that were more important, but I don't like to just say vintage. I'd say like vintage 1950s or vintage 1960s. I like to include fashion or the fabric details, like if it's chiffon, satin, silk, nylon, lace, and applique. And then, of course, the other keywords, whether it's a full or it's a full sweep, if it's full or a half slip. Again, I'll eliminate that if I don't have room. The boning is good. Negligee is another term. Just happen to think of another one, baby doll. This particular, let me grab it here real quick. This is what is called a baby doll. And you can see it's short. This is very much from the 1960s. And these little short nightgowns referred to as a negligee are also a baby doll. Sometimes they came with matching panties, but you know, most of the time I find them there just like this. This is actually a Van Ralt that I found at the thrift store I volunteer at. So that's considered a baby doll. Of course, garter, mushroom gusset, the shaper, wrapper of accordion pleat, sheer, pillow tab, nightgown, set, bridal, wedding, peignoir, illusion, pin-up, and ruffles are all good terms to use in your title, or at the very least in your description. So
nice.
Well, holy shit, that was
wasn't it?
An awesome 2 hours of negligees and awesomeness. So first off, let me thank Annette for spending the evening with us. You rock. And next time I'm home, which won't be for a while because it's too damn cold, drinks on me.
Okay.
Sure.
I'll hold you to that.
For sure, but it'll be warm out. Let's sit out back for once. Every time we've been at Porco's lately, it's been cold. We sat inside. Let's come home when it's nice. Secondly, just as an added bonus, I'm going to a estate sale tomorrow, and I'm not telling you where, and I'm not telling you what I'm looking for, but I showed Angela there's an awesome item we have talked about many times in the thrifting board, the Secret Beach, that's mostly hidden in a picture. I just happened to notice it. So
it's called Estate Sale I Spy.
Yeah. So I'm going to see if I can snag it. Plus, there's boxes of CDs. So this could be a really cool estate sale. So those of you who are watching live, here are the quick notes on the cruise this year. November 2nd out of LA. So we went out of almost the East Coast last time. We're going to do West Coast this time. We were doing the Mexican Riviera, which is Mazatlan, Puerto Vallarta, and Cabo San Lucas. We're in Cabo San Lucas all day, and incredible snorkeling at Lovers Beach. And that's where Cabo Wabo is. And so we already plan on being drunk at Cabo Wabo twice that day. We're going to get off and get drunk and then probably go snorkeling and then come back and get drunk again. So November 2nd for a week out of the port of Los Angeles, which is basically San Pedro, which is Long Beach. So there is your heads up, but we'll have all the details very soon, including where to get your down payment in. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And those of you who can come in an extra day, we are going to be hitting some tiki bars around LA because there's tons of them. So there you go.
Cool.
Don't forget Sunday.
What'd you say?
Don't forget about Sunday's show, being thrifty over 50.
Yep. I don't have the
Talking
time.
about starting a meetup.
Get that. We're going to talk about meetups.
That's good stuff.
We've all been part of right here on this panel. So should be a fun time. So thank you everyone for tuning into both shows. And
thank you, Annette.
Yes, thank you.
If anybody ever has questions, feel free to message me. I'm happy to help out.
And tomorrow starts the Let's Help Our Fellow Thrifters. So please share, please buy. And if you are one of those people, message me and we'll get you on the list. So I only got my first one tomorrow. So we'll need one for Saturday and Sunday and Monday. And so let's help each other out. Let's do what we can to help each other. All right.
Yep.
That's it. I'm done. Time for dinner.
Bye.
Guys, have a good night.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Put one of these on and go to bed.
All right. Shall we keep the show going and watch?
All right. That's a different secret beach.
Oh, that's the secret beach.
Yes, exactly.
Good night, everybody.